Mr. T. Fank, Madam Secretary, Mr. Assistant Inspector General Django Sibley, Mr. City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, 2024. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect that Commissioner Shields, Briggs, Kalanche are present, and we have a quorum. Madam Vice President?
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning, both in person and online. We want to ensure all members of the public can access our meetings. So if you need any translation services or accommodations, we encourage you to contact the board secretary in advance of our meetings, as explained in our written agenda. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. We welcome feedback from the public. Gosh, there's something in my throat. We welcome feedback from the public during the public comment period, which will be heard during item 2 on the agenda. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You can speak to any item on the agenda or any matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. As explained in the written agenda, each member of the public can have a total of up to 3 minutes to speak if they wish to speak on both agenda items and general public comment. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom. While we welcome public attendance at our meetings, disruptive behavior will not be tolerated and will be cause for removal. You will receive just one warning, and if you continue disrupting the meeting, you will be asked to leave and removed from the room. At this time, we will move to item number 1 on the agenda, the report of the Chief of Police. Chief Choi.
Thank you, and good morning, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Assistant IG Sibley, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. T. Fank. Today, I'll be discussing significant events from last week, as well as providing a crime update and then discussing our personnel strength.
Chief Choi, can you just wait 1 second? Ma'am, to the extent you all need to speak to each other, please step outside so we could hear the Chief of Police report. Thank you.
So this past week, we had 2 categorical uses of forces. So on Saturday, March 9th, at approximately 1300 hours, Mission Division officers responded to Foothill Boulevard, 14165 Foothill Boulevard, for a radio call of a violent male with mental illness who is possibly under the influence of narcotics. The suspect was identified as Mr. Zepeda. He was reported to have forced entry into his parents' residence and assaulted his mother with a stick. Zepeda's parents fled from the location and then called 911. Officers arrived. They attempted to communicate with Zepeda outside the apartment. However, he refused to exit and he threatened to stab them while brandishing a pair of kitchen shears. The officers contacted Smart MEU, who arrived and on scene to assist. Officers also requested Metropolitan Division resources, Special Weapons and Tactics, and the Crisis Negotiation Team. When SWAT responded, they began negotiating with Zepeda to surrender. After several hours of a standoff, SWAT deployed chemical agents into the apartment while continuing to order Zepeda out of the location. Zepeda ultimately exited the apartment, but he was armed with a large kitchen knife in his right hand and holding a skateboard against his left forearm as a shield. And despite multiple commands by officers to drop the knife, he began to rapidly descend the apartment staircase. Officers deployed less lethal munitions, from electronic control devices to less lethal projectiles. Zepeda continued to run towards officers, which resulted in an officer-involved shooting. He was struck by gunfire. He collapsed in the courtyard of the apartment complex. He was subsequently taken into custody. Fire department was already at scene and immediately began rendering aid. Zepeda was transported to the hospital, where he is listed in critical condition, and a large kitchen knife, approximately 9.5 inch blade, with a 9.5 inch blade, was recovered at scene. The second categorical use of force was also an officer-involved shooting. On Thursday, March 7th, at approximately 12:54 hours, a person reported an assault with a deadly weapon that had occurred in the area of 54th Street and Manhattan Place, where the suspect, later identified as Mr. Robles, pointed a handgun at this person that was reporting the incident. And while 77 patrol uniform officers were responding to an unrelated call in that area, they observed Robles walking in Chesterfield Square Park, recognized that he could be the suspect from the ADW radio call. They attempted to do a pedestrian stop on Mr. Robles. As they issued him verbal commands, he did not comply. He produced a handgun, what they believed to be a handgun, and officers gave commands to drop the gun. Robles failed to comply, pointed the gun at the officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Robles was struck by the gunfire. He dropped the handgun. He fell to the ground. Additional officers arrived to the location. They formed an arrest team, and they took Robles into custody. Fire department responded as well, provided medical treatment, and transported him to the hospital for gunshot wounds. He is currently listed in critical condition. A BB gun weapon capable of firing 6mm pellet balls with a removable magazine was recovered at scene. This weapon resembled that of a semi-automatic pistol. No other officers or community members were injured during this incident. We also had a recruit graduation. So on Friday, March 8th, we had class 923 graduate with 23 new LAPD officers joining the department as sworn police officers. Although this class is small, we continue to focus on hiring, and I'm pleased to say that our January and February new job application numbers continue to remain at highest we've seen in over 2 years. January had over 1,200 new applications. February had 1,167 new applications. This is compared to February of '23, where we had 669 new applications. So we had about a 74% increase in these new applications. Additionally, in February of 2024, we had 695 individuals that took the multiple choice test. This is the second highest number of monthly testers in the last 2 years. Comparatively, in February of 2023, there was only 448 testers, and this is a 55% increase in those individuals that are sitting to take tests. I'm hopeful this trend will continue to increase, and we'll see more applications and testing that continue to occur. Also, I'd like to report on Saturday, March 9th, I was honored to attend the Association of Black Law Enforcement Executives 50th year anniversary celebration. Several of LAPD's command officers and one former command officer were recognized for their achievements and leadership at LAPD. I'd like to also thank Mr. Tiefink for his attendance, and he presented a number of recognition awards to our command officers. And to everyone that attended this event, I'd like to thank you for your leadership in mentoring and preparing the future leaders of this department. And then on Sunday, we had the 96th Academy Awards. There were approximately 800 to 1,000 protesters and demonstrators that arrived at various locations around the venue. The vast majority of these protesters were peaceful and law-abiding, but at approximately 1 p.m., about 100 protesters broke off from the main group. They attempted to take the streets and surround the limousines coming in at DeLongpre and Highland. A tactical alert was declared and additional resources were requested. A dispersal order was given and crowd control tactics were initiated. This resulted in 2 arrests, one for battery on a police officer, one for ADW on a police officer, and 3 minor use of forces with no significant injuries. There were no other incidents to report. The officers showed restraint, discipline, and professionalism, and I'm proud of the way they handled that incident, and I want to thank them for their work. Okay. And now going on to crime. I know we talked about last week about our crime picture and the rolling out of our records management system and the shift to an national incident-based reporting system. So I will talk about overall homicides and shooting victims. These numbers this week were hand tallied. So there were 7 homicides this week versus 4 the same time period in 2023. It's a 75% increase. And as of March 9th, 2024, year to date, we have a total of 58 homicides this year compared to 47 homicides last year, which is a 23.4% increase. There were a total of 29 victims shot for the week versus 28 for the same period last year. That's a 3.6% increase. Now, I'll go over the other citywide statistics, but know that this is with the exception of Central Bureau, since we are still transitioning or capturing data that are in the NIBRS form, and we're trying to get it back to the UCR or summary reporting statistics form so we can compare apples to apples. So for the same week ending, violent crime citywide, again, with the exception of Central Bureau, is up 2.5%. Property crime is down 4.4%, and Part 1 crime is down 3.1%. In our violent crime, we still are having challenges with our homicides and our robberies, and specifically gun-related robberies. With our property crime, again, it's the same trend. Burglaries are up, but not quite as much. They're up 0.3%, and that's, again, with the exception of Central Bureau. We don't have that data. And the majority of these burglaries are residential burglaries. Our motor vehicle thefts are also up 8.2% citywide, with the exception of Central Bureau, with our top vehicles being Kias, Chevys, and Hyundais. Personnel strength, we are at 8876 sworn. Our civilian personnel staffing is at 2,636, and our reserve officers at 443. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Chief. I'll turn it over to my fellow commissioners for questions. Commissioner Briggs?
Thank you, Vice President Shields. Chief, just briefly, there was recently a report in the Los Angeles Times about the Wilshire Division reporting on burglaries, residential burglaries, and the use of some sort of device by burglars that actually deaden, kill, or stop Wi-Fi from operating, which most home alarm systems now use. And the article went on to point out certain things that homeowners could use. Could you elaborate on that for homeowners to protect themselves?
Yeah, so this device is similar to those devices we've seen already that are able to either clone car key codes to enter cars remotely. So the whole remote or Wi-Fi phenomenon, how to defeat them, is becoming popular. The immediate fix for these home alarm systems is to hardwire them, where you plug those systems directly into your Ethernet in the wall and not use your Wi-Fi internally. And that's the most immediate fix, and that's what our senior lead officers and our education campaigns have been focused towards. So that is really the advised fix. I have not heard of how to defeat this particular tool at this point, but I know our folks are looking into it to see if we can either get it off the market through other means or find a better fix for changing Wi-Fi codes or having them on a rotating basis so you can't defeat it.
As a follow-up to that, Chief, I know that last year there was significant reporting about what they refer to as tourist burglars, people from other countries coming in and burglarizing residents throughout Southern California as well as other areas in the country. Is it your understanding that the individuals who are using these new devices to kill the home Wi-Fis are these so-called tourist burglars, or are they homegrown? Are they localized, or do you have any understanding at this point?
Well, I don't have exact information on the suspect profile for those using the tool. I can tell you that we have a significant increase in burglaries from organized groups that are outside this country, that are coming into the country, and they are targeting high-end residents, and we are addressing that specifically in a task force fashion through multi-agencies, and we're aware of this trend, and we are, I believe, approaching it appropriately.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalanche?
Thank you. Chief, I know you mentioned the transfer to the RMS system a bit. Were there any significant challenges in rolling that out? I know it's been a week.
So there were challenges. If I could just refer to this report. So there were the first 3 days of the rollout, there was reported 28 issues or challenges from the users. And they're categorizing these issues into three areas: technology issues, training issues, and then policy or process issues. So of those 28 issues, 14 of them were immediately resolved. 14 are still being looked into. 2 were deemed like a bug or something critical that was able to be resolved. 1 was a process issue that was also deemed critical that was able to be resolved. 6 of those types of issues were from high profile or high priority, 5 were low priority, and 15 were medium priority. And again, 50% of those were already resolved.
So 50% are still not resolved,
Correct.
and they will be
Well,
resolved.
I should say, this is a report from the first 3 days.
Okay.
So they may be, at this point, I don't have a report as of this morning.
And any of those issues critical to us capturing any data that we need to capture? Or is it being captured in a different way as a backup?
Well, no, crime data is being captured. The technology issue or the bugs would be if a crime gets, for example, and this is only one example, somebody inputs a crime report into their phone or laptop, goes in and it gets stuck in the system and doesn't push through the processing, but that bug has been fixed. So crime data is being captured, and I just want to make sure, we're clear on this from presentation last week. There's gonna be some challenges, there's gonna be fixes. It's been 10 years, as the group said, that we've been working on this. My position is we need to work this, we need to start it. We're gonna have some hiccups and some glitches, we need to work through it, and we need to implement this records management system. There's too many benefits from doing it, not to do it.
Right,
There's
right.
never gonna be a perfect day to start it, and so I chose to have it started.
No, absolutely. Okay, just wanted to check in on the status of that. The other thing I wanted to, this is not a question, more a comment. Congratulations to the Transit Services Bureau. Last week I attended. Yeah, I attended the Native American Leadership Academy graduation. It was very impressive, the partnerships that have been built with the Native American community, the trust that is being built. All of this resulted from the Feather Alert, which is a significant change in how we notify when there's a missing Native person in the state. From what I understand, previously it wasn't communicated to like our state, like an Amber Alert or anything like that, where it was communicated to the state. And now, from what I understand, it's like within 2 hours of a missing Native person, it gets communicated as a result of the Feather Alert. I want to congratulate Chief Graham, Commander Cortez, Captain Bias, Officer McKenzie. I saw the importance of reaching out to this community that sometimes or many times in our country gets ignored. And as a result, I understand that they are coming to present versus us presenting to them. They're coming to present to command staff in a couple of weeks so that command staff can understand their issues, right? What they go through in the city and any critical needs. So I applaud the TSD for taking that on. It wasn't something that they needed to do, but saw a need, and just it was very moving. And the mayor's office was there, and other collaborators, and it rained. It rained during because it was outdoors. It rained, but everything continued. So it was very moving and very inspirational to see our Native people engaged and allowing us to reach out to build trust with them. So just want to congratulate them.
Thank you for acknowledging them, and I'm very proud of the work that they're doing over there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Clanche. Chief, thank you for your report, and I understand that you reported on 2 officer-involved shootings, and whenever officers have to resort to lethal use of force, it's always tragic, and the commission will be evaluating both of those instances at a later date. I was glad to hear that the SMART unit was contacted and present, and at least trying to assist with the difficult situation. And I understand also that you mentioned that, less lethal uses of force were attempted before the lethal use of force. And I know that since our last commission meeting, there was an article in the LA Times about how, less lethal force is essentially causing more deadly concerns or something to that. They're leading to deadly encounters. And that's not at all how I see it. I see less lethal uses of force as trying to prevent the lethal use of force, or at least give officers more time to do that. Did you agree with that report, or how do you see how less lethal uses of force play into these deadly encounters?
Thank you. I absolutely disagree. I think our less lethal munitions, is a de-escalation tool, and it's an attempt to avoid the need for lethal force. It's trained that way, it's discussed that way, and there's far more incidents or options for officers when they do have lethal force available to them, as opposed to going straight from physical force to lethal force with no other option in between. So I just, in my good conscience, it's a less lethal option to de-escalate a situation, and it's not causing more lethal force situations.
Thank you for that clarification, Chief. Another thing that happened since our last commission meeting is that the department released a video of a fiery crash involving a 14-year-old driver. And that the images were very, difficult to watch, but moving. I want to, commend the officers who saved both the driver and the passenger from that fiery crash. And, this is, I want to give condolences to the family members who lost their other teenage daughter in the back seat. It's a tragic situation all around. I would say that this is a plea to all parents to try to talk to your kids about not getting involved in any joyrides or anything like that. And my understanding from reports is that this was, a teenager taking a vehicle without their consent. And I also see, on both the consent agenda items, and from talking to officers, that officers have been trying to think creatively about ways to prevent auto theft. And I, want to commend, 77th Street for distributing steering wheels to the community. If there are opportunities to stop auto theft, that helps both community members and will lead to less enforcement by law enforcement. So it's a win-win situation. And I know from speaking to some folks at the North Hollywood division that they, are reaching out to drivers of various vehicles, just trying to be proactive in that regard. So I want to encourage that type of proactive thinking so that there never is a crime that needs to be solved or that enforcement is ever necessary. But again, I really want to send my, great thanks to the officers who were involved in that very dangerous situation.
Thank you very much.
One additional thing, Chief, before I turn it over to public comment, is that there were news reports very recently about a police officer who was arrested for domestic violence. Can you, and I understand it's an active criminal investigation, but can you just tell us essentially what happens from a department point of view? Does this trigger a complaint investigation, and what happens in that situation?
Sure. Again, it is an active criminal investigation as well as an administrative one. So this officer was arrested, taken into custody on March 9th by Santa Clarita Sheriffs. The incident occurred outside the city as well, and that officer was not at work or currently working. So had he been, he would have assigned a home immediately, and a personal complaint would have been initiated. It was initiated in this case, but additionally, he's been taken into custody. So.
What about the time that he was arrested?
Thank you.
2023 for the same thing?
Mr. Reedy, can you please refrain from speaking? I believe if you heard the chief speaking, he indicated that this individual was not currently working. Is that correct, Chief?
That was correct. He was already at home.
And Megan, this is your first warning to please note, you will have an opportunity to go to public comment very soon. And, okay, Ben, we are going to be moving to item number 2 on the agenda, but right before we do, I did want to inform members of the public that we will be holding our next community commission meeting on Tuesday, April 16th at 6 to 8 p.m. in the Valley Bureau. Our meeting will take place in Mission Hills at Bishop Alamani High School. There should be some flyers around and also posted on our social media. So with that, Madam Secretary, we will be turning to item number 2, public comment period.
First, we have Andrew Graebner.
All right, starting off with the chief's report, that should be limited to 3 minutes at every meeting. If you're gonna let him go for 15 minutes, then we should be able to go for 15 minutes. I see you're shooting and killing people again. Let's see, we have steering wheel locks, $8,000. Let's see, we have more donations. Let's see. Got a lot of donations from really mysterious groups that nobody knows who they are. We have donations for... We have $10,000 for the cops to go run in the desert. We have $12,000 for the safety audit for the air support for the helicopters. We have a $2,000 rental van for the cops to go run in the desert. We have $5,000. We have we have $750. $500, all for the cops to go run in the desert. Those donations also gonna pay for when they get injured, because running in a hot desert is a really bad idea for anyone, and usually they all have to be airlifted to the hospital. Are those gonna come out of those donations, or the taxpayers gonna pay for that? Then the chief wants to go to the celebration. No on that. We have... The chief also wants to go to the LA County Police Chiefs Conference in Palm Springs. Is that even in LA? Palm Springs even in LA County? Why is it being held there? I'm not even sure that's in LA County. I'm not sure on that, but I think that's weird. Is he gonna, spend thousands of dollars in Palm Springs like Michael Moore did when he went on his trips, spending thousands of dollars on food and all kinds of stuff, just racking up taxpayer dollars? Let's see, we have a report on the cops shooting people. The cops are shooting... There's so many people, it's out of control. They shouldn't be shooting people. We have a report on the robot dog. Looks like you utilized the robot dog on someone who was asleep. What's that supposed to mean?
Thank you.
Next, we have Betty Lay. Betty Lay, you're on.
Hello,
Hi, what items would you like to speak on?
I'd like to speak on Chief's report, agenda items and public comment, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay, sorry for delay. I was on the phone with my captain. On the Chief's report, I'm really impressed with Chief Choi. He does an excellent job. I still think that our permanent chief needs to come from within the department because they know the system much better. On agenda items, I support 3A, B, C, and D. And I just hope everybody stays healthy and safe, and I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, next we have Red Chief.
Thank you. Red Chief Hunt. I still don't know who's running the South Bureau. I wake up and there's people shot in a wheelchair right outside my house. Who's running the fucking South Bureau? There's no captains, there's no lieutenants. Who's doing anything with LAPD? Thank you, Sutters, for not coming. I hope to never see you again. It's not that I just really don't care for Sutters as a president. I'm looking for a new president for the police commission, somebody that's gonna talk to the people and stuff like that. So I'm really disappointed in the way that this whole department is being ran as a whole. I mean, it seems like that nobody knows what's going on. From day to day, you guys don't talk to the people. You guys don't come out and talk to the public, which is most important to any organization, that you have to talk to the public. And I just don't get that part of what you guys are doing, man. It seems like that, you tell me that you're not going to retire in 6 months, and then somebody else reports that you're going to retire in 6 months. Two police chiefs that come from the same people, come from the same police department, don't know when they're going to retire and stuff like that. But I'm just not really happy, and I'm really happy that Sutters is not here. That's my biggest point. Everybody else have a living chance, but the way this guy was running this meeting was inappropriate and things like that. Like I said, I'm looking for not only a new police chief, and I think I got my police chief, but I'm looking for a new president as well. And Troy, let me give you some really, really good advice, man. Start talking to the public. These people that are sitting here pay you. These people right here don't pay you, bro. These people right here, you have to listen to them just like people that signing your paycheck and stuff like that. You have to listen to the public, man. And if you don't, man, just like I said, man, I still got police reports that haven't been. It still takes an hour and 15 minutes to get to my house from any radio call and stuff like that. Man, you guys got a lot of work to do, bro. And I did this 25 times now, and it's still taking you guys an hour and 15 minutes to get to my house. Like, this is the second time I walked out of my house, and it was one time somebody was getting shot out of the tree by LAPD, and now this time I walked up a block up the street, somebody's getting shot in a wheelchair. Who's shooting people in wheelchairs, man? Where's the patrol at? Where's what you guys supposed to be doing? You guys writing 35-cent tickets, and your sergeants are writing 35-cent tickets instead of patrolling the community, bro.
Thank you.
Okay,
Next
next we have Norma Chavez.
Good morning, thank you. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Yes, I just want to I want to welcome Chief Choi. I'm very happy he's here, and I'm really looking forward to something big. I know he's an interim, but I know he can bring changes to the department and lift up the morale of our officers. I strongly support the police. I know there's mistakes all the time, and things have to be corrected. Nobody's perfect, but I support them, and I'm just very grateful for all these donations you're receiving, and I hope you use them the way that the donors have intended it to. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Jonathan Foster.
Oh, does this work? Wow, I lost my phone. That really sucks. Let's see. Without a lawsuit, nothing I say here means anything. This is a waste of my time for 5 years coming down here. Unless I sue the handbook, nothing changes. Absolutely nothing. When I came down here, they were saying the LAPD was saying that they brought crime down. Now crime's going up, and it's never really brought crime down. I know it helps deter crime, but it's just still going up. And on the George Floyd Valentine, I had wondered what would happen if you took my dad away. Valentine went around for Chief Sancho Tina, past Chief Sancho Tina. You took my dad away. Boy, would that hurt him? Or would he want to find out who said that? I mean, it's just... I know my last name is Foster, so I don't really want to rub it in. I know what he deals with. So, one of the things I appreciate about the vice president is she's not a cigarette beer bum. That's pretty cool. Not a cigarette beer bum. But there's a lot of things that I'm not happy with. And... but I was happy that you brought up some things this morning about the less lethal. And I had said that should have been a net gun. So they did shoot less lethal. Could have been the net gun. And I know the guy's got mental problems, hit his mom or whatever, stuff like this. But if they hit him with a net gun, the LAPD wouldn't have this stain on it that it killed another person. That it tried to. It hit it with less lethal. All it did is make the dude mad. But they could have hit it with a net gun. And I've seen these videos. The guy in a helicopter shoots out and it goes out to a running animal. It just wrapped it up. Why couldn't they have done this the other day? So I hope you work on the net guns. 52 seconds. Something I've been trying to get to for a long time is the Burlington Coat Factory. The girl that was on the ground. She was being hit by a guy with a bike, a padlock and a bike chain. And my thoughts were, I wouldn't want to give every girl, like 100 girls, a gun and have somebody start hitting him in the face with the bike lock and watch what happens. Every girl, 100% of the girls would shoot the guy and kill him. Maybe they didn't die. Let me tell you, this lady at Burlington Coat Factory has been hit by a padlock with a bike chain. If she had a gun, she would have shot that guy. Yeah, I didn't like that idea at all. It was a bad situation. Jones got a gold heart, but it was a bad situation. But I think every woman would have shot the guy.
Thank you.
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Top of the morning to you, all items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. The name Riley actually means courageous or valiant. I looked up the name Choi for Chief Choi out of respect. And it means to be the mountain or the pinnacle or the top. Chief Choi is now LAPD's top cop, which the media likes to use that term. And we look to you, Chief Choi, with hope. It's a 4-letter word, just like Choi, hope. We see hope that you will lead the LAPD to where it needs to be in the time that you are there. That time is precious, and it is of the essence that you do whatever you can to inspire the officers and the community to make community policing a reality. So another 4-letter word would be best. You are the best that our country has to offer. You are America's best. Make us proud. Make the entire city of Los Angeles proud of Chief Choi. And what can you do to make that happen? Improve morale. Talk to the officers. What do they need to have their morale improved? Now, you went to the graduation ceremony, your first as chief of the department. And I looked up the numbers on the website, lapdonline.org. And what it said there was there were 25 officers graduated. Okay, that's really a small class. Then I looked at the makeup of the class. 20 Hispanics, 2 Asian, 2 African Americans, and 1 Filipino. That comes from the LAPD website. Do you notice anything missing? There are no officers graduating that are of European descent or European heritage. Now, this is March, which happens to be Irish Heritage Month. It would be nice if it would be acknowledged, like Black History Month was acknowledged. You have to acknowledge the heritage of all people. that I'm making a contribution to the LAPD, to law enforcement, past and present, and to our country, the United States of America. So I would ask for March that something be done to acknowledge on the website Irish Heritage Month. The Irish, as you know, were an oppressed people that were discriminated against. No Irish need apply. And many of them became police officers, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and even Los Angeles. And so they need to be acknowledged, the Irish contribution. Again, everybody makes a contribution. LAPD should only come in one color. I'm not an advocate of identity politics, as people here know. The one color is blue. When you put on that uniform, you become blue, and you deal with everyone impartially. There's not much time. If people have time, take a look at on Reddit, the need the truth about LAPD recruiting, and listen to the Police Applicant Podcast on Spotify by Kevin Roybal, who was a former LAPD background investigator. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Akili.
Keely with Black Lives Matters, and I wanted to come specifically to respond to first, I have to say all items, so you have to tell me 3 minutes. So we're gonna do that? Thank you. I really want to respond to item number 4B, the idea that you all would be entrusted with this mechanical dog. Your history of weaponizing pencils doesn't lead me and many people in this community to trust you. And our relationship has not been a trustful relationship. So when you weaponize almost everything you touch, whenever you bring forth a new toy, we wind up paying. We meaning black and brown people, and certainly black people. And so I certainly would oppose this. What do y'all call it? What do they call that? The quadruped. Yeah, it's another toy, it's another weapon. And when your history, your relationship, and your incapacity to accept and understand that our fears means that that mechanical dog is going to wind up hurting one of us, hurting, damaging, and likely killing one of us. So I come here to unalterably oppose it. You do not need it. It offers no real benefit. Much like the helicopters, it offers no real benefit. And so I'm registering, and I'm going to do this on behalf of Black Lives Matters Los Angeles. I'm going to offer our total and utter opposition.
Next we have caller ending 1264. Caller ending 1264.
Hello?
Hi, what items would you like to speak on?
I'd like to speak on all of them.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Yes, Commissioners, Chief Choi, thank you for being here. I had my phone stolen by somebody who was loitering around an illegal mobile restaurant, and there's cameras there. And I have asked the person who is handling my case to allow me to see the camera so I can point out the person who has taken my phone. And I have not heard back from them. These are tools that we have that help us and preventing the next person from this happening to. And it's just the illegal activity that's going on, that continues to go on our sidewalks and our streets, and it creates a bad environment for everyone. As far as a robo-dog, I think it can be an asset, and we obviously need the help, but to give the police officers the authority. We have to stop playing politics with our enforcement. They need to have the authority to enforce the things they need to enforce to help us protect not only the criminals, unfortunately, but protect us. I mean, because you're just creating a very safe environment for everybody what you're doing right now with the way you guys are handling your enforcement. I'm just going to leave the rest of it right there to allow other people to talk. Thank you for taking.
Next, we have Megan.
All items. Dozens of LAPD cops in riot gear standing on the Oscars red carpet. That's where we see the true mission of LAPD on full display, to protect and serve the wealthy. A couple blocks away, LAPD brutalized anti-genocide protesters. I saw a video on Instagram this morning that shows them unprovoked bum rushing a line of protesters, pushing violently through and knocking people to the ground. LAPD is known the world over for its treatment of protesters, and how dare you say that your offers acted professionally. There is a report on the agenda regarding officer-involved shootings for July through December of last year, 23 shootings in 6 months, averaging 1 a week. The language of officer-involved shootings is bizarre. When you describe people shooting at police, for instance, on page 3, you say that the suspect fired at them, but you never say an officer fired at a person. You say an officer-involved shooting occurred, as if there wasn't an individual who pulled that trigger, as if it was inevitable or beyond anyone's control. Words matter. Words determine how people are treated and how policy is created. Your officers are shooting people. They aren't accidentally grabbing a gun which shoots itself. It's literally deadly to word the report this way and encourage your officers to think this way about shooting people. In a continued attempt to legitimize acquisition of a robot dog with the capability to shoot people, an acquisition which was resoundingly rejected by Angelenos, we have on the agenda an inspection report about that piece of deadly military technology. In the list of deployments of the dog, you forgot to include the time it was taken to a public holiday event on December 21st with City Council President Paul Krikorian, where it was allowed to interact with children. And then that footage was used in a cute little promo reel on LA this week. This is exactly what LAPD does with every new piece of technology and weaponry: promise a strict usage and then immediately do whatever the fuck they want. This report is a sham. It's not providing accountability. It doesn't include the instance where the robot dog was deployed against LAPD policy, because everything about this commission is about legitimizing what this deadly police force does and not about actual accountability. Finally, I just want to remind everyone about the cozy ties between the IDF and the LAPD. They are training partners. They exchange surveillance technology and new weapons technology. LAPD learns from IDF and uses IDF-created technology to surveil civilians. There are cop cities being built all over the country so that American police can learn from the IDF how best to conduct domestic warfare. For a glimpse of what our future might hold, we need only to look at what is happening in Gaza. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Okay, next we have Philip Tabby.
Madam Secretary, can you repeat the name?
Philip Tabby, you're on.
Good morning. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
A quote from John F. Kennedy. One person can make a difference, and everyone should try. Chief Choi, you have the chance to make a difference, and you already have began with your appointment of interim chief of police. It does seem to appear we have more applicants to the LAPD, and that may have happened because more is no longer here. But much more can be accomplished during your term. I will probably mention this every time, but please bring back the blue line flag. If not you, hopefully the next chief of police hears this concern. I have very little faith in our city council, for many of them believe in a woke agenda and do not represent the people very well, and I believe city politics are holding this and many items away from the public. In the past, a certain councilwoman, corrupt soft on crime Monica Rodriguez, got her way with our last chief, which should have never, ever happened. That, paired with personal matters between our last chief and members of the department, got in the way of community policing and affected our communities in a negative way. It is now your turn to do the right thing. Captain Smith was removed in the dead of night over trumped up charges. Everyone knows what happened. It was a vindictive, personal thing. I know you don't want to make any new promotions, but I'm asking you to restore what once was. Captain Smith went 30 years with no substantiated complaints and was demoted, moved, given 10 days. Yet Foothill is still stuck with Captain Lying Loose Hands Lozano, who has a stack of complaints. One that's still open, where he cursed out the window in uniform in a city vehicle at a community member. You know, I remember that day I hit the mute button so our CPAB and many others on the Zoom meeting would not hear Lozano's cursing and yelling, and nothing has happened to him. He's a disaster. At the end of the day, you're the leadership. Please make the right decisions. When command staff members keep getting away with everything, like putting air tags on cars, perjuring themselves, cursing at community members, and not keeping their hands of themselves, it shocks the foundation, and cops and community lose hope in who the LAPD really is. God bless the Los Angeles Police Department, and God bless Los Angeles. I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, next we have Donald Harlan.
Hi, I'm Donald Harlan. I have concerns, a lot of concerns about the police department. Just to remind you guys, you're just city workers. I know that there's a lot of pressure on you guys and a lot going on, and I bring up things that seem like, wow, should I have to deal with that as a city worker? And, you know, it's not really fair, but I'm still gonna try you guys for that and hold you accountable on that stuff, even though it sounds ridiculous or a comic book. Sounds like a comic book, but I only get a minute to share with you guys concerning agenda item 3A. The Los Angeles Police Foundation. Wow, what a corrupt criminal organization. There's 31 members. Who are they? Who are these corrupt politicians? You see, I know it's good to have a place where the police department can throw a party or take donations or have a good time, but wow, that LA Police Foundation has gone to the next level. They start giving you guys awards for things that they shouldn't. And that's a big problem with the Los Angeles Police Foundation and their real estate deals. It seems all 31 of the members are involved in bad real estate deals. Is that an official city entity, the LA Police Foundation? I mean, are they part of the LA Police Commission? Where are they getting this money from? The LA Police Foundation. It sounds like they're selling real estate or building apartments. There's crazy people from a certain letter or certain ethnicity or certain religion or certain race or a certain trope that believe that to run a city that they have to sell the property in the city, or to pay for the police department that they need to sell the property in the city. Well, that for sure is not true. And all those people doing that, no matter where they are, should be treated as criminals. There's no way you guys are ever gonna clear your work with people trying to sell real estate in the city like that. They didn't ask the owner of the real estate, they asked somebody else. Who sold them the property? They say, I don't know, I'll sell them the property, they gonna pay me for it? You see, that's what the LA Police Foundation is doing. That's where the money for agenda item 3A is coming from. You need to look at all those members. Are they also employed with the state or the county, the Fed? I noticed they're making up a lot of fake government agencies at the LA Police.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next we have Adam Smith.
Good morning, Becky and friends. Chief Choi. Yeah, I guess all I really wanted to talk about is, as some of you may have read in the news recently, there's a long overdue city report back on Los Angeles Municipal Code 4118 that the LAPD has a part of, that's supposed to turn in their part of the report back on 4118 to the CLA. And it's been missing for now 274 days since it was due. So I'm wondering where that report back is on 4118. I work in Skid Row at LA Can and witness the LAPD reset team using 4118 as a way to pull people out of their tents, to run them for parole and probation, to find out who they are. And in a community meeting, Sergeant Hutchins, who's the LAPD reset supervisor, in October, in a meeting, a closed meeting at a private condo residence in Little Tokyo with Kevin De Leon, the city attorney, sanitation, Captain Jovel or Commander Jovel from Central Division, all of the senior lead officers. Sergeant Hutchins talked about a database that they're keeping unhoused people in. And through a California Public Records request, we were able to get a little bit of that data, but literally putting name, demographics, and location into a database of unhoused people in Skid Row. And so, yeah, wondering where this report back is. We haven't heard anything except that LAPD was delaying releasing their part months ago. Wondering if that's true, and if it's not, where the fuck is it? It's been 273 days. Someone at City Hall leaked the LASA portion of this report back 2 Fridays ago. And yeah, we're just wondering where LAPD is. Notably, there are 6 unhoused people dying every day in Los Angeles. So this isn't about some hyperbolic thing. Like, you're using 4118 every fucking day in a place that 6 people are dying every day. Using 4118 to move people around, to shuffle people around. Kevin De Leon's office literally painted a white line on sidewalks underneath the 110 overpass to delineate the where CD14 ends and CD1 begins, so that his office, using your officers, can push people into CD1 using 4118.
Thank you.
Next, we have Audrey.
Is there any one of you on the commission who's not appalled that the not very progressive LA Times is overseeing the LAPD more than you are? Is there any one of you who is not in the pocket of and busy fawning over the officers and chief of the LAPD? Is there any one of you that cares more about what the community wants and more about the people than you do about your relationship with LAPD? Is there any one of you who is reading about the officer-involved shootings from the second half of 2023 who even shed a tear? Is there any one of you who doesn't see the dark irony and outrage about this potentially rabid robot dog playing with little children because a city official decides to bring it, which is not, last time Chief Moore apologized that shouldn't happen, but it keeps happening. Is there any one of you who doesn't think that the rules that you impose, like where I can't even have a sip of water, it should override your concern about shootings of mentally ill people and people with plastic forks or kitchen knives? Is there any one of you that really gives a damn about what you've been appointed to do? I also want to just reiterate something I've said many times. There is nothing that should be on a consent item. There is nothing about giving money to LAPD that should be considered uncontroversial or just a given. There is nothing. And I always, this bullshit on both walls. We know that LAPD never, ever prevents crime, and that it defines crime in ways that really only benefit rich property owners, and does never benefit unhoused people, poor people, and people that are just trying to survive.
Next, we have Michelle Dumont.
My sentiments exactly, Audrey. I'm not talking to you people because you're doing your job exactly as it's been designed. But you people, do you know what your job is? Do you understand what your job is? This is the most murderous police department in the country. And you are sitting here praising and glamorizing everything and saying these wonderful things and not asking any hard questions and not doing any research yourself. Shame on you. If the if the LA Times is reporting on something, you should research it. You ask him in a meeting, of course he's going to say, no, these less than lethal weapons don't lead to more deaths and more killings and more violence by the PD. That is not true. Look at what just happened this week. A person with scissors was shot. That person may die there in critical condition, even though they used less than lethal force on them first. I would suggest that all of you submit yourself to some of that less than lethal force and figure out exactly how it operates and what's going on, because you are not doing your work here when you are not independently investigating and challenging this police force. You cannot let this keep happening. People in this city are dying. And they're dying because you sit here and say, there's nothing wrong with this police force. It's so wonderful and lovely. Do you know, by the way, transit police, when the LAPD was on transit, hundreds of people died, probably from overdoses, because the LAPD wouldn't even touch them. And now we have these ambassadors on transit. They have saved 72 lives within a short period of time. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that this huge disparity exists. This is not a police department that serves the public. This is not a police department that cares about the public. They don't even care enough to check if somebody has a BB gun or not. And then they say, oh, it looks exactly like some kind of, give me a break. Give me a break. And you let them lie, and you let them subvert the public, and you let them get away with it. You are not here to praise them. You are here to oversee them and to be critical overseers, because this killing department has to stop. And if
Next speaker, please.
Next, we have Jason Reedy.
All right, so let's navigate our way through the lies and propaganda of this department. William Good, one of the biggest department's critics, was assaulted on the morning of March 10th outside of La Poubelle, a restaurant with close ties to Scientology, the same Scientology who LAPD protects and serves, and where Danny Masterson drugged one of his victims. Will was punched in the face at least 6 times. They tried to put a cigarette out in his face, pushed, bitten on his hand and arm, kicked in the head, and elbowed in the face, resulting in a broken nose. Will filed a PPA and detailed the assault with Detective Aluto on the scene and was told by him, "This is what you want, right? You get hits and views. This is great." He then went inside the restaurant where the attacker was at and claimed he couldn't find him. And all Will had to do was wait outside the restaurant for 15 minutes after the LAPD left. And lo and behold, his attackers emerged. So I'm just pointing this out because when a PPA is filed, Rasha, you claimed, alongside the former chief of this department, that you were required by law to arrest the person that it's filed against. That didn't happen when Berlinda Nebo, filed a PPA against the white supremacist assaulters, her white supremacist assaulters outside of LAPD headquarters on January 6th. But it was the reason you provided as to why you put Killer Mike in cuffs at the Grammys. The contradictions are glaring. Now, for the shooting in 77th by one of your pigs on March 7th, this pig shot a community member and his name still hasn't been released. They remain anonymous despite the 72-hour briefing and what was supposed to be the subsequent release of their name. But again, we are seeing a pattern in the LAPD of delaying the names of your officers who shoot community members, and without even detailing if there is a quote-unquote safety risk. What is the safety risk? You should be detailing that. Their name should be out. We know that for your shooting on March 9th, it took you failed to state in your news release that you shot this suspect 6 hours after arriving on scene. So I expect the name of your SWAT member to be released and for us to learn how many other shootings they've been involved with. Now, why didn't the chief mention Shay Van Deventer, the domestic abuser for Devonshire Division, who was arrested for felony domestic violence in May of 2023 and was again arrested for it on March 9th of this year? The public wants to know, why was he still working for the LAPD? Well, we've seen via your disciplinary penalties that the LAPD are very lenient when it comes to your pigs committing acts of domestic violence. For example, in July 2023, you stated that a pig was involved in a domestic violence incident, which resulted in the response of on-duty officers from an outside law enforcement agency. Was that Van Deventer? The same department, and that all he got was an admonishment for that. All right, this is the same department who had slandered my name and falsely accused me of beating my wife, while giving out simple admonishments to the actual pigs that you employ who beat their wives. Now, on Twitter and in the chief's report, you claim that during the pro-Palestine actions to disrupt the Oscars, an arrest was made for battery on a police officer. That was a complete fabrication. Yes, Papi. The LAPD deliberately targeted an organizer of People's City Council, violently arresting him with strikes to the head as he, alongside others, locked arms while retreating from your war-ready pigs. Retreating is seen as aggressive to the LAPD. I thought that's what Karen...
Thank you, Mr. Reedy. Next speaker, please.
Where's the documentation to back that up?
Next speaker, please.
Next, we have Matios Kadan.
LAPD Spying Coalition. First off, on the less than lethal weapons, they're not in fact less than lethal. These weapons are lethal when aimed at the head and neck, which is a practice LAPD often does during protests. They violate that policy. And when speaking to their effectiveness in these instances when they're supposed to stop the LAPD from killing someone, we need to understand that when less than lethals are used by the LAPD, there's something that occurs called simultaneous fire, which is the fact that the LAPD will fire less than lethals and then immediately shoot people with their guns at the same time or seconds apart. So any notion that we need more violent less than lethals is a sham, or that they're ineffective. I think we're not accounting for the violent intent, the lethal intent of LAPD officers when we talk about this. Secondly, on this robot dog quarterly audit, quarterly report, it's a sham, as all LAPD policies around technology oversight are. And I want to highlight two of the inaccuracies in this report. One, Megan pointed out, which it didn't highlight the deployment in this holiday party that Michael Moore very publicly apologized for. And so, I mean, that delegitimizes this report on one front. The other instance that's kind of inaccurate, or just plainly inaccurate, is in the instance when the LAPD deployed this robot dog to apprehend somebody sleeping on a bus with a firearm. It lists that this person was holding a firearm. The person was not holding a firearm. LAPD, actually came out after the fact and said they were holding a BB gun. CBS's report didn't correct this. LA Times' report did not correct this. The person was holding a BB gun. And that's not a firearm in the state of California. It's not considered a firearm. So just a plain glaring inaccuracy, but I think it highlights the intent of this robot dog and the narratives around it. It is to make a story, right? To create a PR, to legitimize this technology. In the same way that these policies are meant to legitimize the acquisition of these technologies, right? Even in getting this tech, Kowalski trotted out Boston Dynamics VP Brendan Schulman to City Council and lied about how policies around drones were used, and actually trotted inaccuracies around drone usage too. And the same thing we're seeing with this robot dog. And so I think we just want to highlight that all of this is a means of normalizing this technology, this military surveillance equipment, right, that gathers data en masse, has GPS mapping capabilities, has cameras, microphones. All this information is gathered through this robot dog that'll feed all the data that the LAPD already collects. And it's also just normalizing military tech for other places too, right? This robot dog playing with kids, being trotted out in events. It's normalizing seeing robot dogs in Gaza, right? Seeing robot dogs in the border. This is a means of solidifying the relationship of companies with Boston Dynamics with municipal agencies like the LAPD, but also other governments or other militaries, sanitizing the violence we experience.
Thank you.
Madam Vice President, that was our final speaker.
That concludes item number 2. Now moving on to item number 3. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for items 3A through 3D? Okay, no questions. I move that we adopt the recommendations set forth in the agenda for items 3A, 3D. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, believe the motion passes. Let's move on to item number 4A, regular agenda items, the department's report on officer-involved shooting instances from July 2023 to December 2023. Hi, Captain, can you please introduce yourself and provide the update?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Matt Pluggy. I'm the Commanding Officer of Critical Incident Review Division. And I'm here to present or to suggest that this report is submitted, the biannual officer-involved shooting report is submitted pursuant to request from the Los Angeles City Council Public Safety Committee to provide a biannual report on the number of officer-involved shooting instances between the 6-month period covering July. This report covers July 2023 to December of 2023. Just as a reminder, these cases have not yet been adjudicated by the Police Commission. However, the report does provide a number and a brief synopsis of each event. And with that, I will ask if there are any questions with regards to the report.
Thank you, Captain. Let's turn it over to Commissioner Briggs. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
How about Commissioner Kalanche? I had just a couple of questions. Just so that I understand kind of the methodology, and again, understanding that these are cases that have not yet been adjudicated by the commission. There are times when some of the descriptions mentioned the deployment of taser or the deployment of a less lethal force. Was that consistently done throughout each description? So that if there had been any attempts at less lethal force, would that be described in the descriptions?
Yes, and we try and make these descriptions consistent with what we'll see on the critical incident videos that get reported or that get put out to the public. Because, as you well know, the investigations are ongoing. They're very detailed and thorough investigations, and there may be circumstances that arise during the course of the investigation that we might not have information of at this moment.
For future reports, if possible, understanding that I understand the fact that facts are continuing to change, to the extent you're able to identify when a SMART team is deployed, that would be helpful information to include for future reports. But other than that, I don't have any other questions.
The request is noted. I'll have our team add that to our future reports.
Thank you so much. And with that, I move to approve the department's report. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much, Captain.
Thank you.
Moving on to regular agenda item 4B, the department's report relative to the quadruped unmanned ground vehicle quarterly inspection report. Deputy Chief Kowalski.
Good morning. I'm Deputy Chief David Kowalski. I'm here to report on the quadruped unmanned ground vehicle quarterly inspection report. This period covers October 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. There were two situations where the QUGV was deployed during armed encounters with suspects. On October 17th, patrol officers responded to a radio call where the suspect fired multiple rounds inside an apartment. The QUGV was deployed into a third-floor apartment to identify the suspect's location and minimize the threat to our SWAT officers. The suspect was ultimately taken into custody safely after surrendering. And on November 8th, which was captured live by our local media and was briefly discussed at the last inspection report, officers responded to a Los Angeles MTA bus where an armed suspect had barricaded himself inside. Due to the height of the stairs, SWAT safely deployed a robot dog to climb up and enter the bus. As the QUGV entered, a firearm was located on the floor and the suspect awoke from his sleep. Our operator then maneuvered SWAT to create a barrier between the suspect and the firearm. The suspect then exited the bus and voluntarily surrendered. The purpose of acquiring this technology was to better protect our officers and the community by de-escalating dangerous situations in the safest manner possible and providing our tactical operators more options to improve the likelihood that these incidents end peacefully. We've also continued to work with the manufacturer, Boston Dynamics, and other law enforcement agencies around the country to review their deployments of SWAT to assess best practices moving forward. I'm prepared to answer any questions you have regarding this report.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Commissioner Kalanche, do you have any questions?
Yeah, a quick question. Is there a reason why we don't have the deployment at the holiday event listed on here?
This deployment, it's outside of the reportable uses on our written policy that was approved last year. It also was discussed by Chief Moore at a previous commission meeting when this issue did arise, so that it wasn't included in this current report for reportable uses for the policy.
And is that, just if I could step in, is that how you define deployment? Is deployments more a tactical use versus displaying at community events? Is there a distinction?
Yeah, so there was, we had identified 8 permissible uses into our policy, and that one was, doesn't fall under that, therefore we didn't include it in the inspection report.
Could we include it as a non-permissible deployment? I mean, it's more accurate.
I guess, Chief, can I ask, is that seen as a deployment, or is it when items are brought to a community event or displayed during a community event, does that fall under the definition of deployment?
No, it does not. And reason being is we do so it's not going to be used in those purposes in the future. However, if, for example, if SWAT goes to a community event, we don't report that as a deployment. If our Bearcats go there as a item to be shown, we don't report that as deployment of the Bearcat. So this is similarly situated. These are deployments for the use for the purpose they were intended for, and also that use for a display item of this device was, I believe, clearly discussed and presented to this commission and to the public for that matter.
Commissioner Kalanche, does that answer your point, or would you like it incorporated in some way?
It does, as far as the deployment aspect of it, but I think this is going to go to City Council. I think it's important, right? Is this being transmitted to City Council or to Council Commission?
Yes, when this went through City Council approval, a motion by Councilmember Yaroslavsky had asked for this quarterly update. I think if it does go to City Council, it should be directed to the City Council President Krikorian, who was involved in that community event in December, as far as directing our department to use this at that event.
And I think to that point, I mean, it should be reported to them that this was a request of city council. So if it could be incorporated somehow, I think,
If I can make a suggestion, we can make it as a note, but not call it a deployment.
okay, that works. Yeah, that works.
And I may have one additional edit to the report too, as we're talking about it, but Commissioner Briggs, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
The only other, Commissioner Kalanchi touched on one of the questions I had about the report. The other one was mentioned during public comment about whether the firearm that was identified was a BB gun or an actual firearm for one of the events. I believe maybe it was the November 8th, 2023 event. Do you know that information, Deputy Chief?
It was a replica handgun, I recall, on that one. It appeared to be a full firearm at the time as the call came out. And on that particular instance, it was made mention about the suspect being asleep. And when our operators were not aware of that, obviously he's still a danger. The firearm was right near him, which we believed. And in fact, for those that have seen the demonstration of the robot dog walking, I mean, it's my belief that as the dog was walked up into the bus, the heavy footing probably alerted him or awoke him because of the steps and hitting the metal. And then, of course, its maneuverability by the operator to give separation, I think, helped in de-escalating that situation. We've seen encounters across the country. I mentioned best practices just last week. In Massachusetts, in fact, there was a situation that would have met our criteria, armed suspect involving a state regional SWAT team. And I did speak with the end user, the operator of that, and what we saw with that, and what's been good with our deployments, is it's able to identify the actions of a suspect inside a residence. I talked about the first one in October, but in this case, there was a very violent suspect, and he knocked over the dog twice, and the dog righted itself, and it was even shot by the suspect with a .22 caliber rifle. And when they retrieved the robot dog, and they replaced a battery, it was still operational. So the resiliency of this technology is amazing, and it has been a force multiplier for us.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. And I understand kind of the dangers of someone having even what appears to be a replica firearm or turns out to be a BB gun, and understand the dangers that presents. Just my recommendation, though, especially if we're going to add the note about the use of the robot during a community event, that the description of the event be amended to say that, what appeared to be a firearm, because again, that as opposed to saying that it was a firearm. Is that?
Yes, if I could add what I would like. I think the narrative representing it to be a firearm is accurate because that's what the officers believed at the time. If we can also add a note at the end of that, at the last paragraph, to say, upon conclusion of the event, the item recovered was a whatever it was.
Exactly. At some point, it's just clarifying that when, again, the officer's perception was that it appeared to be a firearm. It was a firearm in their mind, but sometimes it turns out that it was inoperable, or it just actually was not an actual
Absolutely.
firearm.
We'll clarify that.
Thank you. So I think with that, we would recommend that the department come back with an amended version of the report, and we'll hold off on taking action. Executive Director, please tell me how to logistically do that.
Or can we just approve with those two amendments, just to move it forward?
Madam Vice President, you could approve the report with the amendments, and the department could submit the report reflecting those.
And that's why we have the wonderful Executive Director. Thank you. I move to adopt the department's report with those two amendments that we have discussed. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam President, if I may, before you vote, on this item, it should be transmitted to the city council. It's not on the agenda, but that would be the recommendation. And after this item, we need to go back and correct item 4A
Yes.
to transmit that to the Public Safety Committee.
Wonderful, thank you. So the recommendation for item 4B is to approve the department's report and transmit it to City Council. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What, motion passes. Thank you so much, Deputy Chief. And I'll go back to item 4A. The commission has already approved the department's report. I also move that we transmit that report to City Council. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We will now adjourn and go into closed session.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss agenda items 5A1 and 5A2 in accordance with Government Code Section 54957.
Okay, the commission is back from the closed session items, and we'll ask for the report out from the executive director on items 5A and B. Thank you.
5A1, the commission on a 3-0 vote adopted the chief's recommendations, which were tactics, tactical debrief, 3 police officer 2s, 2 senior detention officers, 5 detention officers, and 1 captain 2. Inmate intake procedures consistent with established criteria, 3 police officer 2s, 1 senior detention officer, 2 detention officers. Inmate welfare procedures consistent with established criteria, 4 detention officers. Inmate emergency medical procedures consistent with established criteria, 1 senior detention officer, 4 detention officers. Post-in-custody death procedures consistent with established criteria, 1 captain 2. Item 5A2, officer-involved shooting, number 017-23. Commission on a 3-0 vote adopted the recommendations of the chief of police, which are tactics, tactical debrief, 2 police officer 2s, drawing and exhibiting, in policy, 2 police officer 2s, lethal use of force, in policy, 2 police officer 2s. That concludes the report out.
Thank you, Mr. Tiefenk, and that concludes all of the items on our agenda, and I move that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.